everybody got a daffodil? David?
I do. Thank
I
you.
do. End up spending
Yeah, carry on, right?
last period for a friend of mine.
All right, we're ready to go?
Atlanta.
All right, good afternoon, everybody. We will call the public meeting of April 8th for the City of Mount Pearl Council to order. Welcome, good afternoon. Spring has arrived. I brought back spring. I hope you appreciate that.
We appreciate it.
Yeah. Yes. Well, no. I was trapped in Toronto.
Welcome to my world.
When you guys, when that storm hit, I was trapped in Toronto. But when I came back, it ended, and of course, as you've seen, everything has been beautiful ever since. So if there's any way I can politically claim credit, I will. If someone is to be blamed, it's Jerry Antle's fault. This might as well be his turn today. All right, very first thing, I'm going to entertain a motion to accept the agenda as it is presented in front of you. Moved by Councillor Tessier, seconded by Councillor Ledwell. Are there any additions to the agenda not already put into the package for everyone? There is a correspondence here. I don't know if that's not in the package, I'm assuming. And we have a proclamation, but that is in the package. Is there anything else to add? If not, I'll call the question. All in favor? Contrary-minded, motion is carried. To the agenda then. First, the minutes and the action report of the meeting of March 25th, the public council meeting. A motion to accept the minutes as presented, moved by the Deputy Mayor and seconded by Councillor Aker. I'll get everybody's name right now in a minute. Any errors or omissions?
He has.
Any errors or omissions from the minutes of March 25th? Hearing none, call the question. All those in favor? Contrary-minded, motion is carried. Business arising then from the meeting of March 25th. Business arising. Going once. Going twice. I hear a councillor going, indicating maybe. Councillor Tessier, just maybe what?
Item number, item number 195.
Item 195.
That's our data voice cabling. I guess that's the robocalls we're talking about.
Yes.
Is that correct? Just because it's in public.
No, it's not.
No,
that's
it's
the
not.
multiplex.
Oh, okay. Sorry, my mistake. My mistake.
No, that's not. That's for the multiplex.
Oh, okay. No, sorry. Then no
That's
items
where
then.
the comes from.
That's where the because I was looking at it going because especially during imminent weather, our system once it's up and running is going to be awfully good.
Business arising still. Business arising. Hearing none. I'll go back to the agenda if I can get back there. This thing is going a little tiny bit haywire on me here, folks, today, for reasons that I don't understand. We're going to go back to the agenda for public council meeting. I think I know what's happened here. It has not been opened. No, bear with me.
Are you ready?
Not yet.
Would you like the Deputy Mayor to take over here?
You're going to have to now in a second. Here we go. Yeah, please, guys, cut me a bit of slack. Al, the first thing we're going to do today is proclamations, and we do have a proclamation today. This is in reference to Cancer Awareness Month. We've always been tremendous supporters of the Canadian Cancer Society, their efforts in our community, and I think it is why everybody today is wearing a daffodil in recognition. The proclamation reads as follows: whereas the Canadian Cancer Society, Newfoundland and Labrador Division, is a community-based organization of volunteers and staff whose mission is the eradication of cancer and the enhancement of the quality of life of people living with cancer. And whereas the daffodil is a symbol of hope in the fight against cancer, it represents the courage of cancer patients, the compassion of volunteers, and the commitment of researchers dedicated to conquering the disease. And whereas the Canadian Cancer Society is committed to funding the most promising cancer research, offering supportive services to those living with cancer and their families, raising awareness of the importance of cancer prevention and early detection, advocating for healthy public policy, and operating a toll-free cancer information service. Therefore, I, Randy Sims, Mayor of Mount Pearl, do hereby proclaim April 1st to 30th, 2014 as Cancer Awareness Month in our city and in the province, and it's dated this day, April 8th, and I am going to affix my signature. With us today, we have Mr. Al Pelly, who is with the Canadian Cancer Society. Al is the Director of Revenue Development now, is the new title, is it? Because it changes yearly, I think, for all of these positions. But Al has held that position for some time. I'm going to ask you to come forward, Al, if you want. I'm going to give you this little microphone here, if I know how to turn it on again. And I'm going to invite you to take a minute and address council. Tell us about your plans for Cancer Awareness Month 2014, sir. It's on.
Well, thank you, Your Worship and councillors, for your continued support of this important awareness month for the Canadian Cancer Society. On average, every day in this province, 9 people are diagnosed with cancer, and more than half of those will not survive their cancer diagnosis. There are 200 types of cancer that we know of, and what research is telling us is that over half of those cancers are preventable. So the Canadian Cancer Society, along with many of our partner organizations that we work with in the community day in and day out, is committing in the coming years to launch an aggressive education and awareness campaign so that we can stop cancer before it starts, particularly with those that are preventable. That will allow us more time to focus on putting our emphasis on research on the cancers that are harder to treat. And as the Mayor mentioned in the proclamation, the Cancer Society is very committed to funding some of the best research in this country. And we commit $50 million a year, and that will increase as we move forward so that we can focus on research for the harder to treat cancers. So opportunities like this help us get our message out, and we appreciate it. And the fact that you're wearing your daffodils is very important as well. It is a symbol of hope. And also, I have to get this plug in for April the 11th to the 19th, we'll be selling our daffodil flowers in many, many retail outlets throughout the city and the province, and cities and province. And that's an important fundraiser for the Canadian Cancer Society. A lot of people want to buy these flowers just to support cancer patients in this province. So if you see our volunteers out selling them, please stop by and buy a bunch of flowers. And on April the 28th, that's a day that we're asking Canadians to wear their daffodil pins in support of people living with cancer, because it's a day that we want cancer patients in this province and this great country of ours to know that they're not alone in the fight against cancer, that we stand with them, and that we're doing all we can to help them in this fight. So thank you again, and as a resident of Mount Pearl, I applaud you on the wonderful snow clearing. I'm so glad I don't live in St. John. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you, sir, very much, and good luck with it. Are you doing a radiothon this year, or a telethon
December
or anything?
the 10th.
Oh, you're going to do it December 10th?
Yeah.
Oh, we're going to do this. We're going to do this
Yeah.
kind of formally, are we?
Here we go.
Here we go.
Your Worship, I'm gonna.
Done?
And
Okay.
I put my golf tie on today.
Yeah, you're getting ready, are you?
Getting ready.
You
you're
can't beat
getting
me,
ready.
Al. Forget it. All right, Councillor Stalls first.
Yes, I wanted to speak to the proclamation, Your Worship, and want to mention a volunteer that volunteered a fair bit, especially with the daffodil program, and that was Joan King. Joan is away this year, and Joan Benson has taken over her role, and I was talking to Joan up at the Citizen Ear, and she's still looking for a few volunteers for certain places to fill in. They have all the stores and locations around Mount Pearl, and they're looking for people to take a 2 or 4 hour shift. So if anybody is interested in the community that would like to volunteer, they can contact the Cancer Society office, and they will give them Joan Benson's number. And an hour, 2 hours is what they're looking for, or 4 hours, and in the evening time or in the night time. There, we go out and we do a lot of people sitting around the table here. A lot of my fellow colleagues on council do. Christmas time we do the Salvation Army kills, and I thought maybe it might be an opportunity for us to take this on as well and put our 2 or 4 hours in and volunteer. So if anybody, I'm sure Joan would love to see a few extra bodies and be able to cut many hands makes light work.
Thank you so much for that, Councillor.
Amen. Yes. Okay. Anybody else? Anything? Thank you, Al. Good luck with both the public awareness and the fundraising campaign. All the best. Al, of course, being a good Mount Pearler and a poor golfer, is the guy I like to beat often. And I often do. That's all I'm saying. Never mind, Al.
I'm sure he's okay with missing it. I don't think he needs that.
No.
Yeah, he doesn't need to hear. I said you were a good Mount Pearler and a poor golfer, and that's why I like beating you often. So,
Listen, if you're going to boast about beating me, you haven't got much to boast about.
well, I have to admit it has on occasion been easy. Not really. I've lost my share to him, and I have a feeling come spring I will again. That's all for proclamations. We have one piece of correspondence, Council. It is from Mr. Paul Browning, the President and CEO of Irving Oil, writing to thank the City of Mount Pearl and the Tricom Thunder Bantam AAA hockey team for hosting the 23rd Annual Irving Challenge Cup, which took place at the Glacier from April 3rd to 6th. That was a tremendous event. I had the honor of representing the city and welcoming all the athletes from the 4 Atlantic provinces that actually participated in the Cup, and it proved to be a highly successful weekend. I believe it was Nova Scotia that actually took the trophy at the end of the day. But what was most complimentary from the people who were engaged in it from out of our community was the tremendous amount of organization and effort that had been put in on the part of minor hockey here and on the part of people in Mount Pearl to see to it that they were hosted to the mosted. Everything was done for them perfectly, and they were just thrilled with, at that point, what they anticipated would be a tremendous tournament, and it proved to be quite successful. Indeed. I did not get to the closing. I don't know if anybody else did. I wasn't there for the closing of the event on the weekend. But that's just tabled for everybody's information from Mr. Browning. Deputy Mayor.
I was going to go to committee reports. But
You're ready. You're really ready.
I want to speak to that as
You're
well.
really ready to rock and roll.
No, but I was going to say, I think the closing ceremonies was the Saturday night, if memories are
Yeah, we had the banquet, so I believe.
And we had the
Jason
Citizen of the Year, so Director Collins represented the city at that, so I just wanted to speak to that. Your
And
worship.
did you do as well? Did you do as proud?
I did, I think.
What? You did, I think.
I'm sure he did.
I have no doubt whatsoever. Okay, we will move first then to committee reports, and the first one is Community Services. Deputy Mayor, floor is yours.
I apologize for that jump of the gun there, Your Worship.
Oh, no, nothing wrong with being eager.
I did want to give kudos to Director Collins for representing us at the closing banquet there. Yeah, a lot of compliments. I think they said they had probably 700 or 800 people at the Glacier at one time, which is a big crowd, at the opening ceremonies and stuff like that. So it was very well attended. We just got 3 quick items here, Your Worship, for the Community Services Committee. The first is a tender award for the fitness equipment for our Pearlgate Recreational Complex. The tender was placed. We received 3 bids, and it's recommended that the tender be awarded to Spartan Fitness in the amount of $236,780.20, and this includes HST. And of course, just to note that the Spartan was indeed the lowest qualified bidder, and I so move.
It is moved, seconded by Councillor Stoyles. Question or comment? Hearing none. All those in favor? Contrary-minded, motion is carried.
The next item, Your Worship, has to do with the City Days 2014. I'm so looking forward to the sunshine and the snowless ground when we have our City Days. For the sound, lighting, movie screen, and outdoor staging quotations, it's recommended that City Days sound, lighting, movie screen, outdoor staging be awarded to Eastern Audio for a quote of $16,159. All specs were met by Eastern Audio's quotation as outlined by our Community Services Department and our Community Events Coordinator for the staging and screening of these events. And I move that we award this again to Eastern Audio, and I so move.
Moved by the Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Stoyles. Comment? Question? All those in favor? Contrary-minded? Motion carried.
And the last item for me, Your Worship, is has to do with the Mount Pearl Sport Alliance, dealing with the second and final installment of their operating subsidy we're recommending approval to release the remaining funding of $80,000 to our Sport Alliance for the minor sports group as per the sport funding criteria that's provided under the current memorandum of understanding between the Alliance and the city, and I so move.
Moved, seconded by Councillor Stiles. Any questions, comments? All those in favor? Contrary minded, motion is carried.
That's it for me, Your Worship. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll move on to Corporate Services Report. Councillor Aker.
Thank you, Your Worship. 2 items for consideration today. The first item is professional development and training for the Director of Infrastructure and Public Works to attend the American Society of Civil Engineers Congress from June 8th to the 11th, and I so move.
Moved and seconded by whom? Councillor Tessier.
Wait.
Questions or comment? All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded, motion carried.
And secondly, invoices for approval in the amount of $1,961,589.33, noting that of that, payment there for the Regional Fire Department of $1,435,700 is basically making up 2/3 of that amount, and I so move.
It is moved and seconded by Councillor Tessier. Question or comment on items listed 1 through to 10? 1 through to 10? None. I wish to make note on item 10, Tract Consulting Limited. I am going to refrain from a vote on that if allowed. I now have a professional relationship with that company, and I feel that therefore for me to vote would be considered a conflict. So I'm just going to call the question with that duly noted in the minutes. All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded, and the motion is carried. Does that conclude corporate services? Moving on, sir, thank you, to Infrastructure and Public Works. Deputy Mayor Locke.
I'll jump up again, Your Worship.
Yeah, you're filling in for our ailing councillor, who, by the way, I spoke to earlier, is doing quite well.
Well, given the volume of emails that are being sent, we know he's feeling better.
He's definitely coming around, there's no doubt about
And
it.
he's starting to correct grammar and punctuation, so we know he's feeling better, right?
Well, so what you're telling me is he's back to being a teacher.
Yes.
And soon he'll be back to being a counselor.
Absolutely.
Yeah, he's doing really great. Such a tremendous positive outlook, on everything, and got a great prognosis and is doing really well.
Absolutely.
But that's proof that it pays to be healthy before you get sick.
Right.
As funny, as silly a sound as that sounds, he was in such great shape and condition when he got diagnosed that he's really rebounding, really well. And that's a caution and a warning to us all. Anyway, I'm sorry, I've diverted you from
Oh, no
your
worries. But
report. Go right ahead.
You commented on his spirit, and he had a positive spirit all the way, and that was great to see. He was never down about it. So I'm delighted to bring in the report on behalf of
He's probably watching.
Councillor
He
Walsh.
probably is, I never thought about that. He's probably watching. Yeah, he's probably watching.
Hi, John. First on, Your Worship, is winter maintenance, and Al made reference to the wonderful snow clearing. And again, we send kudos out to our staff for the great work they have done. Getting back to the Irving Cup Challenge, there were some concerns because Wednesday was, I think, the first day. We had 700 or 800 people coming to the glacier, and we had mounds of snow. And that morning I drove through the glacier around the main thoroughfares in the city, and I even sent an email to Director Antle, and you would never know we had just had, almost 40 centimeters of snow. Our crews were out. The glacier was perfect. There was no snow left anywhere on the glacier arena. And again, the volunteers and Mount Pearl Minor Hockey certainly appreciated that. So I just want to again send out kudos to our staff that worked so hard. Just a little update here. Director Antle provided me with a map here of the city, just to let you know that as of tonight, there's a section in the northern part of Powers Pond that remains to be done, and Mortimer Drive, Admiralty Wood area, and after that, all streets will have been done, pushed back,
And widened?
snow blowers.
So the part of Powers Pond is McCarthy, that area?
Yeah,
That should be done now?
Yeah.
Okay.
What about,
I saw them at lunchtime, and they were up on Elder.
right.
are we taking them out to cul-de-sacs, or are we finished with cul-de-sacs?
Yeah. Right.
We're not going to cut back.
They don't need to be cut
that's
back.
what I'm asking.
They don't need to be cut back, right?
No.
It's just where people, for danger reasons and safety, it's cutting back so people could get out of their driveway. Like we had the option, Your Worship, to, some people felt, well, why are we cutting back the snow? We could have left it and let the weather melt it. But I mean, on my street, like the snow was right out where
This is tunnel.
you're each absolutely.
Yeah.
So I think it was prudent on behalf of the department. They've done a great job. So I just wanted to let folks know that as of tonight, all streets will have been cut back and cleared. So again, kudos to that. Just to let you know that
The snow that's piled in the middle of the cul-de-sacs, though, are we going to leave that given the time of year, or are we going to try and remove that?
We think we're gonna leave, we're looking at it this week, we think it's gonna be able to melt pretty good.
Yeah, I would think so, yeah. We
Yeah.
might just be able to leave that there.
The
Yeah.
important thing for tomorrow was to get catch basins open, too.
We got catch basins for,
right.
catch basins, so
Yeah.
we're ready.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
ready for the catch basins have been done, so they're ready for that.
Good.
And just to note that all the fire hydrants are clear. So we've had an aggressive, is it 400 fire hydrants we have? 800? So they've all been cleared back, so that's good news. And of course, you're getting all the media reports about the potholes and blown tires and stuff like that. We have been aggressively working on our potholes going around. We're filling with crushed stone. We're putting a cold fill in there. But people got to realize that this is just a temporary fix, and it's not until the heaving and the frost gets out of the ground. You know, when we get to that point, then we'll go back to do permanent fixtures. So as soon as people let us know, the city know, we will be quick to address those, get out there, fill them in as quickly as possible. So again, call out to the residents to remain patient. We all drive the streets. I know the potholes and the frustration it is, but you know, we're keeping on top of them as quickly as we can. And again, our crews are doing a great job. But again, you know, we're going as fast as we can go. And as they appear, we try to deal with them. And hopefully in a month or so, we won't have to worry about it. We'll be worried about all the grass and the daffodils.
I hope you're right.
I hope I'm
you're
right too. So that's it, Your Worship, for the winter update. Back onto my machine here. The next item is the multiplex status update. About 94% is financially complete. And we are now into the commissioning stage, which is critical because we've built this beautiful facility with all the pipes that our director loves so dearly. But now we've got to start to commission it and get it up and running to make sure, because there's always little bugs that you got to work out. So we're in that critical stage right now. But
We got to make sure those pipes all mean something.
That's exactly right, and that the stuff flows through the way it's supposed to flow through. And I think in our kits for our later meeting, there's some diagrams there and photographs. Pictures of the pool, and so it's coming along. It's looking great. We're still on schedule to get it opened by the summer. So I just wanted to
And we're still kind of on
highlight
budget.
that. Yes, indeed. Yep. So I think our overseeing and the management of that by our staff at IPW, I think they've done a great job in that regard. So again, congrats go out to that. The last item for me, Your Worship, has to do with asphalt cracking. Of course, we see that all throughout all areas of the province, actually. So the committee is advised that the tender for the asphalt crack sealing closed on March 21st, and we received one bid, and it's recommended that the contract be awarded to the lowest qualified bidder, Crown Contracting, and the bid amount was $29,967.60, and that includes HST, and I move that be awarded as presented.
It is moved by Deputy Mayor Locke, seconded by Councillor Ledwell. Questions or comments? All those in favor, contrary-minded, motion carried.
Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you, sir, very much. We're moving on to Planning and Development Committee report. Councillor Ledwell.
Thank you, Your Worship. The first item we have on our agenda this evening is a proposed wastewater treatment facility. It's an application from Parties Holdings Limited related to the property at 30 Kyle Avenue. As I say, it is a development application. It's proposing to place a trailer on the property for the purpose of treating wastewater from the offshore industry. The proposed process involves treating wastewater, storing the treated water at the existing tank farm on site, testing the treated water, and the controlled discharge of the treated water into the city's sanitary storm sewer system. Now, parties have submitted a letter as well as some other information outlining the process that they intend to use here. They've consulted with SCG Industries, their remediation and environmental products business from New Brunswick, regarding the design of this system, so that then get some input and make sure that the system works the way that it should. Parties applied for and received a temporary approval from the Department of Environment and Conservation on September 18th of 2013. Now, the treated wastewater from the proposed development will also have an effect on the St. John's sanitary sewer system, as well as the Riverhead treatment facility. So parties applied for and received approval for the development from the City of St. John's on February 26th of this year. The subject property is at 30 Kyle Avenue. It's located on the west corner of Glencoe Drive and Kyle Avenue. There's currently a combination of light, general, and hazardous industrial uses in the area, as well as some commercial and garage uses. Thus, the proposed use is certainly within the range of uses that are in the area, and certainly within the range of uses that council may permit at the property at its discretion. Notice of this application was published in the Telegram on November 9th, 2013. Notice was also mailed to 39 property owners within the 150-meter radius of the property, as per council's policy, and a briefing session was tentatively scheduled for December 3rd of 2013. There was only one representation received. It was from a business on Kyle Avenue. The summary of the questions and concerns from the respondent was forwarded to parties for their review. The parties responded on November 27th, and based on the response received from parties, the business owner indicated that their concerns were addressed, that they had no further concerns with the development, and thus the briefing session was cancelled. Now, the proposed treatment facility will not create any offensive odors. It does not require additional storage, and there will be no septic waste treated at the site, only wastewater based on the proposal. Thus, it is the recommendation of the Planning and Development Committee that the application by Parties Holdings Limited, proposing to place a trailer on site for the purpose of treating wastewater at 30 Kyle Avenue, be approved and a development permit be issued subject to the conditions in the kit, and I so move.
It is moved, seconded by Councillor Tessier as the alternate
Oh, yes, it's nothing.
on the committee.
Question,
I gather some of us have several. Go ahead. Councillor Stalls first, and Deputy Mayor. Sure.
Well, I'm just wondering about the trailer, if it's a permanent trailer or it's only something there for a short period of time. I'm just wondering what status of that is.
Councillor Stalls, as per my understanding, this is not a temporary facility. This is something that will be there on a permanent basis.
Deputy Mayor.
I was going to ask that as well, Your Worship. Also, my initial response to this, when I saw the start of the report, you know, your warning bells sound, and you know, you're talking wastewater, industrial wastewater, and stuff like that. But looking through, you know, Party's process here, it is pretty rigorous. You know, the step-by-step process is outlined, and they're going to remove the oil from the water. It'll separate by gravity. The sludge and oil will settle to the top. Then they'll remove the sludge and oil. They filter that sludge oil to get as much of the sludge out of it. Then they'll deal with the oil product, and then the water that's then sent into these storage facilities, my understanding, you know, has primarily most of the sludge oil removed from that. So Councillor Ledwell did mention about no offensive odors, and so after reading the report and the thorough report that our planning department did put here with all the details, I'm satisfied that this can be done in an environmentally safe and appropriate manner.
Okay.
Councillor
Aker.
The other question I had, I'm just wondering if there's...
We had Councillor Aker up.
Oh, I'm sorry. I wasn't finished with mine when you read it.
Okay, I'll go back to you.
Okay.
Sorry. Go ahead.
So if I understand this, there will be a separation, as the Deputy Mayor says, of the sludge from the water. The discharge occurs here in Mount Pearl?
My understanding.
And
Yes.
I understand, I read that there's a little portal, a sampling portal there. So my question is, as part of our approval, are we expecting that the discharge water, I guess before it ends up in not the sanitary sewer, but in the water of the storm sewer, will that be sampled on a regular basis? And who will be doing that sampling? Will it be parties, or do they refer to the Department of Environment? I think it's a very rigorous process too, as the Deputy Mayor said. So now I'm wondering, what other quality control features are in place to ensure that the process works as planned?
Mr. Yefchak.
Your Worship, in response to Councillor Aker, yeah, it'll be an ongoing testing program through the Department of Environment Conservation. So as the water is prepared, ready to be deposited into the sanitary sources or storm sewer system, sanitary. What they will do, they will test the water first before it actually goes into the system.
So it's not actually going into the storm sewer, it's the sanitary sewer.
That's my understanding.
It's going into the sanitary sewer?
That's my understanding. Yeah. That's why it's going to Riverhead. Yeah, and that's why it's going to Riverhead. Yeah.
Right, so it's not going into our storm sewer, which is a completely different thing.
And that's why that's why there was sorry, Your Worship. That's why the referral to the city. That's why they reviewed it. They gave an approval permit, but the more rigorous part of all this is that there'll be ongoing testing.
That's right, through Riverhead.
Yeah, well, through through Department of Environment, or prior to going to Riverhead.
So there'll be ongoing further treatment, I guess.
Yeah, at Riverhead, yes, it will be, yeah.
Councillors-
Although
Councillor-
at that point, the water should be at a level where there's very little treatment actually required.
Councillor Stiles.
Two other questions. One question was, is there one anywhere else in the province? And if there's a problem with it, and we already have given the permit, can we revoke the permit? If we find that after the testing and everything is done, and they find that it's not working in the system that they're hoping to put in place, if it's not done anywhere else, the environment I know will be involved. I'm just wondering then, we've already issued the permit to them. I'm just wondering if a temporary permit would have been the way to go in the beginning. I have no problem in supporting something like this, and from everything I've read and seen, and I've got it online and looked at, there don't seem to be any problem. I'm just wondering, like I said, I wanted to find out about the container, if it was a permanent storage.
So, and who can answer? Are there others in the province? Who can answer that question? I cannot. None of us can, I'm assuming. Mr. Yevchek?
Your Worship, I'm not aware if there's any. I wouldn't be surprised that there is others. I mean, this is not an unusual situation in terms of separating water, bringing it back into industrial water and bringing it back into the mainstream. But I can't say for sure, so I better say no. I'm not aware. And secondly, in terms of if there's an issue, if there's an environmental issue, the department will kick in and close it down. Yeah.
Okay. My one question, Councillor Ledwell, to you and to staff is, if this is actually going to the sanitary sewer in particular, then there's a cost to treating this water. Does that cost get borne by us, or do they pay to put this stuff through Riverhead like we pay to put stuff through Riverhead?
Is it metered?
It is metered. It says here that there is going to be a flow meter on the discharge line, will be required to indicate volumes, but those volumes of water in the hundreds of thousands of gallons, I'm assuming, will go through the treatment system, and as far as I'm concerned, that's going through our flow line. That's ours. Will we be paying for that then, or should they be paying for that?
Yeah, we currently, for commercial taxpayers, we only meter water consumptions. We don't meter any flows through the sanitary. You are correct. It would be going to Riverhead, and therefore it would be part of the metered, I guess, material that we are charged by Riverhead.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So let's say they put 500,000 gallons of treated water. Okay, they pre-treat the water, then it goes into our sanitary sewer, then it goes to Riverhead, and Riverhead treats it. Well, as you know, we are paying outrageous amounts of money now to treat this water, to get it to a level where it can be discharged into the harbor, all of our wastewater. So wouldn't their 500,000 gallons, and I'm just pulling a figure out of it, wouldn't the charge for their 500,000 gallons of water that's being treated go to them as opposed to just be part of the 4 million gallons that the city has to pay for treatment?
If I may, Your Worship.
Councillor Tessier or Councillor, or I keep calling him Director Yevchek. Councillor Tessier first.
But would there not be lots of industrial uses that would have similar outflows of water into the treatment center?
Well, if there is, then my argument carries even more weight.
Well, that's
yeah.
what again.
Mr. Yevchek.
First of all, in answer to the first question about the cost, I don't think that was actually explored. I think you raise a very good point. What's happening is you have wastewater actually being brought to the site. So it's not like wastewater within the site itself. It's actually being brought to the site. It's then being treated and then discharged. So there's additional water coming to the site. So it's not coming through our system. It's coming from the offshore oil.
But when it goes through our system, there's a meter on the line that says, like right now we pay for our inflow, the water we use, but we also now pay to treat the water we discard.
And I agree that's something we didn't look at, Your Worship, and that's something we should.
Shouldn't there be a fee for that and not be a burden to the taxpayer? The CAO, Ms. Peach?
Yeah, I just want to clarify that right now we do have a combined water and wastewater fee, the $600 a year that we charge, plus for commercial and industrial taxpayers, they pay a millage, and that is not just for water. So it's not metered, it's true, but there is a fee for wastewater taken up in that.
Well, I just
fee.
wonder that, yes, and that's kind of like what we do with residences and water. But this could be a thing that discharges a tremendous amount of flow into our system. Shouldn't we have a way of protecting the taxpayers against having to pay out for that? I just...
Yeah, there should be consideration to metering the flows of that, just like we do with water.
I think we should
agree.
explore that,
could
and
explore.
I'd ask
But
the
it's not
committee
that
to
it's
do
not
that.
paid for
Your
at all.
worship. Councillor Aker.
Yeah, I think the water and wastewater taxation or usage rates that we've got here at the city, they all imply, and it's based on consumption, because it assumes that whatever you purchase in terms of water, whether it's metered or based on millage, it assumes you're expelling it. But in this particular case, they are bringing water in from an external source. It is a very unique situation. May I suggest that we continue with the approval here today, and we'll take it to corporate services and look at our taxation basically to see whether we should recapture in examples like this. You know what I mean, Your Worship? This is very unique. We're importing water.
I agree. I think that this is unique and worth looking at. Mr. Yefchak, you wanted to speak again. Go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, I agree. My recommendation would be to continue with the development permit, but add the other condition regarding that the additional water that's created on site from this operation be metered, and I agree that be brought over to corporate services for review and determination of a cost for that water. I agree.
No, I think that we can just accept that as being part of the motion on consensus. Everybody would agree with that. Anybody else with a question or comment? I'm looking in particular at staff now. Any other information to add? Mr. Silver, are you content with it's going to be your department that explores these options, right? You're okay?
Yeah. What we'll do is we'll take a look at what our options are. Well, first of all, in terms of metering it, and then go from there.
Yeah, because it just seems to me if there's 500,000 gallons a year flowing through there or whatever, or 1 million liters, we should be able to capture some cost back.
We'll work with planning and development. And
thank you, sir. Okay. Oh, I'm sure there are, but we'll explore it now. We are going to go back to Councillor Ledwell before I call the question. Final comment?
Thank you, Your Worship. Yes, and certainly I would be in agreement that it should be something that we would have to look at in terms of metering these flows. In terms of this particular approval of this permit, I think if you look through the report, you'll see that a permit or approval has been issued through the Department of Environment and Conservation at the provincial level. They've gone through the permitting process with the City of St. John's. I think they've put a lot of work into making sure that their system that they're proposing is as environmentally friendly and as practical as possible. So I would certainly continue to make the motion and support the approval of this particular permit. And I so move.
It is moved and seconded. Any other? We already did that, of course, so we'll call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded, the motion is carried with the expanded condition that the Director of Planning articulated for us. Okay.
Our second item for planning development is a notice of motion, which I'll read into the record. In accordance with Section 39 of the City of Mount Pearl Act, 1988, take notice that I will, at a regular meeting of Council, move that the Mount Pearl Adult Materials Display Regulations, as adopted by Council on September 4th, 2007, and which came into effect on November 1st, 2007, be revoked. The reason for the revocation is that, as a result of Council's regulatory review process, it has been determined that the regulation of adult materials is beyond the scope of Council's legislative authority. And that is the notice of motion.
I'm amazed. Okay. All right. I'm amazed. We'll speak to it later. All right.
Should be an interesting discussion.
A revealing discussion. David, please.
Third item for planning and development, of course, is the development permit list, which you'll see there for the period of March 24th to April 4, 2014. There are 5 permits there, and I'd like to move those.
It is moved and seconded. All those in favor? Aye. Contrary minded, motion is carried.
And finally, Your Worship, just the building permit listing at the back of the report. We just have the commercial permits for the period totaling $125,000. This is for the period of March 22nd to April 4th, 2014, and I so move.
Moved and seconded by Councillor Tessier. All those in favor? Contrary-minded, motion carried.
And that concludes planning.
Thank you. That concludes the Planning and Development Committee report. We don't have a Regional Services and Environment Committee report today. Is there anything to come forward on that at all? Transportation and Public Safety Committee.
Thank you, Your
Councillor
Worship.
Tessier.
First of all, as the Deputy Mayor alluded to earlier, it has been a very, very challenging winter. And of course, given the amounts of snow that we've had falling with transportation and public safety, of course they go hand in hand, and exorbitant amounts of snow create their own unique challenges for our residents. So we want to thank our city staff for how hard they've worked this winter. When someone says, boy, that damn snowblower woke me up at 3 o'clock in the morning, I'm thinking, well, somebody's out at 3 o'clock in the morning making sure that your street is being widened for your safety. So we've had staff work 12-hour shifts, 24 hours a day, very, very hard in challenging.
They've all made a fortune, Councillor. They've
Oh,
all made
listen,
a fortune. It's called white gold, you know. for a
Money
reason.
well deserved. Well, I tell you, nobody else is shaking or standing up and down, jumping to do the job
I know
when
a
it's
lot of
falling
guys.
down.
I know a lot of guys smiling when they go into work and they're singing double time. Oh, it's mine. Come on.
Well, this winter proved to be more challenging than we've experienced in recent years.
I think in a decade. I got
Yeah, it can't be argued. I think since 2001.
Yeah.
1 in 10.
Yeah, this has been probably the worst winter we've
Brutal
seen in
winter.
quite some time. The snow fell in November, and it stayed. All
Yep.
those years previously when we'd wonder if we'd have a white Christmas, what's Santa going to land his sleigh on? There's no fear of that this year. Absolutely no fear of that. In fact, if the Easter Bunny doesn't paint the eggs, we might have difficulty finding them.
Yeah.
So it's been a very, very challenging winter, and we as a committee want to recognize our city staff who've worked so very, very hard and very diligently to keep our streets safe and clear as possible during this season.
Yeah. While I make a little fun there, here, it's been an exemplary
Absolutely.
work on everybody's part, and I trust that Director Antle will pass that on to everyone involved. It hasn't been the easiest of times.
No, it's been very, very difficult. But I got to tell you, I always say you always know when you enter the city limits. And there's no doubt about that.
That's true.
Now we have 2 notices of motion. There is very, very slight changes in the verbiage, so I'm going to read from a paper copy, but you will see very, very slight changes. In accordance with Section 39 of the City of Mount Pearl Act, RSNL 1990, take notice that, in accordance with Council's public notification policy, I will, at a regular meeting of Council, move an amendment to the text of the Mount Pearl taxi regulations that, if enacted, will add, change, and clarify a number of clauses that reference the definitions, licenses, inspections, cruising, fares, and tariff rates. The purpose of this proposed amendment is to update Council's authority. That's where you'll see the slight change. Update Council's authority to regulate the taxi services throughout the city, dated this day of April 2014. And the second notice of motion, in accordance with Section 39 of the City of Mount Pearl Act, RSNL 1990, take notice that, in accordance with Council's public notification policy, I will, at a regular meeting of Council, move an amendment to the text of the Mount Pearl traffic regulations that, if enacted, will add, change, and clarify a number of clauses that reference the commercial motor vehicle speed limit provisions and definitions. The purpose of this proposed amendment is to clarify Council's authority to regulate traffic services throughout the city.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. That concludes your committee report. We are then up to new business. I'm going to start with the Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Your Worship.
A couple of items here. First off, I want to acknowledge Joan King. I think Councillor Stoyles mentioned Miss King earlier on in the meeting. Of course, wife of former Councillor Ross King, whom our library is named after. Just to note, Your Worship, that Miss King served on the library board for 10 years, and she's retiring and heading back to England. So I think next month she's heading back, and I was speaking to my wife about this last evening, and a smile came across my wife's face, and she said, I remember Miss King because when I was a brownie, and one of my badges, I had to sew something, I think, and I had to bring it to Miss King, and she had to give the thumbs up for it. So, lovely lady. I know she used to do sewing courses as well that my wife took, and at the fabric store, and So again, a lovely lady, commitment to the city again, and just wanted to send out a public thank you for her service and kindness that she gave to our residents here, and also wish her well in her retirement as she moves back across the pond, as it were. The next item, Your Worship, I just want to, you mentioned earlier about the Citizen of the Year award ceremony we had. It was a great event again Saturday night, and Claudette Coombs was named the Citizen of the Year, but as you said in your words, Your Worship, the other nominees, Cheryl Ash, Pat O'Keefe Sr., Claudette, and I've lost it.
Brian Hunt.
Thank you, Brian Hunt. My son is going to kill me because my son plays baseball. Yeah. He's going to say, Dad, you forgot Brian's name of all people.
Yeah, you're
so yes,
done, man.
Brian Hunt. And again, I mean, all their accomplishments and accolades, and it's a really nice event that we do take the time, and it was a beautiful event. Thanks to our again community services staff who helped out with Kinsman in this regard, and it was a beautiful night. And again, congratulations to Claudette. My wife commented that when Claudette's name was announced, Gerald seemed happier than he was absolutely over the moon that Claudette had won. So he was
our first husband and wife team.
Yes,
by the way,
they were full of pride,
He has won it, and now she has won it,
which was very nice. Speaking of Gerald, on a sort of a sad note, we all received notice at the passing of his son the day after. So I just wanted to send out public condolences. Many people have heard of it and have come to me, and there's a lot of prayers and support here. So I just wanted to acknowledge that, and I know our city will do something to recognize and support the family in that regard. And the last item, Your Worship, I want to end on a positive note here. I just want to mention the name of a local student here, Victoria Jackman, and she's a level 1 student at Mount Pearl Senior High School. And she was selected one of 20 students from across the entire country to travel to Vimy Ridge, which is in northern France. And this year is 2017, will be the 100th anniversary of the Battle of Vimy Ridge. Canadians, many people say that was the battle that brought Canada together as a nation, and very, very important battlefield site for Canadians, but also Newfoundland. Newfoundland was not a part of the country back in the First World War, but if my history serves me correct, I think 42 Newfoundlanders also fought and took the ridge, Vimy Ridge, from the enemy in that particular battle. Victoria was chosen as one of 20 youth across this country, and she is currently in Vimy Ridge. She's gone on what they call the Vimy Ridge Pilgrimage. It's for young leaders with an interest in history. And young Victoria is a real crackerjack. She's a delightful young lady. She's vivacious, she's energetic, she's sharp as a tack, and very, very well spoken, fluently bilingual. So she was absolutely over the moon that she got chosen to go on this particular.
Excellent.
I know I would like, if you would, Your Worship, I know she's out of town, but if we could send a congratulatory letter under your signature for when she returns, I know she would be delighted by that. And I just want to thank again city staff. They provided some city pins that she took with her to share as she was in her glee in northern France. And that's it for me, Your Worship. Thank you.
Councillor Stoyles.
Thank you, Your Worship. I have a couple of things this afternoon. First one I have is I attended the annual general meeting of the Chamber of Commerce on March 27th, and Mount Pearl Paradise Chamber of Commerce, and they had passed me on a lovely plaque to present to Council, and I would like to do that, Your Worship. The outgoing president is Deborah Felton. The incoming president is Tammy Clark, and as she said at the luncheon, she's looking forward to working with the city. The Chamber has a really good relationship with the city, and we're looking forward for that to continue. And I will present that to you now, Your Worship, on behalf of the Chamber.
Thank you, ma'am, very, very much. It's very nice, isn't that nice? We shall proudly display that here at City Hall. Indeed. Very nice. Yeah, really nice looking. Thank you.
And a number of other things. As Volunteer Week has just started as of Sunday, I guess, and we had our volunteer banquet on Saturday night for our Citizen of the Year, and of course I too want to pass along my congratulations to Claudette Coombs and the other nominees. Also, Your Worship, at that event, Richard Lavanier was honoured as receiving an award that the city sent his name in. I think it was a recreation award, and it was good to see Richard honoured in such a great way. And I spoke to him afterwards. He was certainly well appreciative of that. And I too want to pass on my sympathy to the Coombs family, and also another gentleman that passed away in the city was Cyril Hammond. Cyril lived on Commonwealth Avenue for, I don't know, I'm going to say 40, 50 years, and he moved to Masonic Park about 8 or 10 years ago, and he passed away just a couple of days ago. He's going to be buried actually tomorrow morning, and wanted to pass along my sympathy to his family. Also, Your Worship, the Terranova Elite Cheerleading Club was in Halifax on April last weekend, and there's 2 different teams, actually, 25 girls in each team, and a large number of them are from the Mount Pearl area. We don't have a cheerleading team as such in Mount Pearl, but the Terranova Elite has young ladies from all across the Avalon, and one of the groups is going to be going to compete in the World Cheerleading in Orlando, Florida, on April the 25th to the 28th, and I think I spoke to Christina Ennis, who's a resident of Mount Pearl and a member of that club, and she said it was 7 girls in her group of 25, and there was another group of 25, and she wasn't sure how many was in that group. So there's a large number of Mount Pearl girls involved in these clubs. So I wanted to say congratulations to both of them.
And Your Worship, there were some males as well. Don't forget
Some
the males, because one of my students actually was the coach of the junior team, and they won the national medal. I only found it out today, so I don't want to exclude the males as well. So it wasn't only girls there, just to throw that out there. Yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to frighten you with the loud mic there. Sorry. But when I spoke, everyone sort of, everyone jumped. I apologize.
Another thing I wanted to speak to, Your Worship, that took place in the courts was the graffiti court case that took place. And as we all heard, that there was a suspended sentence and a 6 months probation. And I know Councillor Tom Hand spoke very loudly in the chamber of City of St. John's that he certainly didn't feel that it was enough when you look at defacing property. And we certainly have a major problem here in the city, and we work with youth groups to do artwork and things like that. But graffiti certainly is a major problem in the whole of the region, the Avalon, and it is disappointing when you see that they get such light sentences when they're found guilty of doing something like that, Your Worship. Also, I want to mention the M&L Symposium, which is going to take place April 30th to May the 2nd in Gander, and certainly encourage anybody to go out. There's an awful lot of educational stuff for municipalities, and certainly great for councillors to be out and be part of that, Your Worship. And the other thing I wanted to mention, that I didn't represent Mount Pearl, but I attended the ceiling disaster that St. Peter's Parish had a church service, and of course Councillor Aker was there at the service as well, and it was great to see our clergy community taking part in community efforts like this. And actually there was, I think, close to 200 people at the event that evening, and I know Father Sutton was there and Major Lacey from the Salvation Army, and it's great to see all the churches coming together to mark such an occasion. And just wanted to mention that as well, Your Worship. And that's all I have.
Councillor Tessier.
A little bit of repetition, but it is important to me to express my sympathies to Gerald Coombs and his family for this tragic loss. I can't even imagine what they're going through. And also congratulations, though, beforehand. It was a beautiful night to recognize the people who give so much to our community. Claudette Coombs, of course, walked away with Citizen of the Year honors, but any of those 4, and certainly 40 more could have been acknowledged as Citizen of the Year in Mount Pearl. And Richard Levandier, I mean, his efforts are just second to none with this effort, and certainly with his efforts as a volunteer in Mount Pearl. Last Thursday night, I attended the Mun Varsity Athletic Awards. And while I wish I had the specifics in front of me, and I don't, and I did request them, but I guess they're very busy. 2 Mount Pearl athletes that I know of for sure were recognized with several awards at the Mun Varsity Athletic Awards. Gavin Dyke for his accomplishments with swimming, many records broken. He's really making his mark, of course, with Mun in the pool and academically as well. And Ian James, Ian James is a young man that I haven't seen since he was a little boy. So when I heard his name called and he stood, it was like, oh, he's a grown-up version of that kid I used to know. But he's a wrestler, and he's an accomplished wrestler. So he received at least 2 awards as well on Thursday night for his accomplishments with wrestling with Mun Varsity. And I know these varsity awards are not given out lightly. They recognize not just their athletic achievements, but of course their academic achievements in combination as well. So it was really impressive, and I was really proud to be there. Today, I attended a funeral of a woman who passed away with breast cancer, and she is connected to this city. She's from Holyrood. Her name is Pat Joy, and she lived up to her last name. She actually used to be married to the deputy mayor of Holyrood, Jim Joy, so I saw Jim several times over the past couple of days as well. But Pat never missed a Frosty Festival. She absolutely loved getting in her car in the middle of February and driving from Holyrood into Mount Pearl because she knew she was going to get to dance. She knew there was going to be lots of music, a great party. She was at pancake dinners, jigs dinners, you name it. If she could eat or dance, she was there. I missed her this year because she was ill. But anyway, she will be missed. If you saw her, you'd recognize her as someone who never left the floor at the Glacier. The second the guitar started to tune up, she was licking her lips and waiting to go. So anyway, she's going to be greatly missed for many reasons, but I know Frosty is something that gave her tremendous joy. So on this volunteer week, everybody who's given at least a second to Frosty Festival should know that they've made a positive impact on very many people. Pat Joy nonetheless.
Thank you. Councillor Aker?
Yeah, nothing additional to add, Your Worship, but I did want to pass on my condolences to the Coombs family. It's a great loss. It must have been a real sudden tragedy. Only the night before, Claudette so humbly accepted Citizen of the Year award, and you could tell from her speech, Your Worship, she genuinely accepted that on behalf of all the volunteers here in Mount Pearl. So our sympathy goes out to Gerald, Claudette, and Stephen's family. I'd also like to just mention the Kinsmen did a great job, I think, organizing the Citizen of the Year banquet, as did the Community Services Department, led by, I think, Krista Tucker was probably the person on the ground the most there. Fabulous job, great night, great to see some of the former Citizens of the Year out. And lastly, congratulations to Wally O'Neill and the crowd at Mount Pearl Minor Hockey that organized the Irving Cup. That was a real combined effort of the current executive up there, as well as many alumni on the executive, like Gonzo Bennett, Wally, and many, many others. And I don't think they had any a mishap at all. It was very well run. Mm-hmm. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you. Councillor Ledwell.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll be brief. Most of what was on my list has been covered, but of course, as many of you do know, I'm a member of the Lions Club here in Mount Pearl. I do serve on the executive with both Gerald and Claudette Coombs. Certainly it is a tragedy that Stephen has passed away, and I'd like to add my condolences to all of my colleagues' condolences. Stephen has been sick for quite a while, actually, and Gerald and Claudette have been back and forth in North Carolina, trying to look after him and his affairs, and of course their family. So I guess one positive way to look at it is that he's not suffering anymore, which is good. But certainly it is a hard time for the entire Coombs family, and I do want to add my condolences to those that have already been expressed. Certainly both Gerald and Claudette, as president and secretary of the Lions Club, do so much in our community and have done so much over the years. And I know that our city and our community here will certainly look after them at their time of need at this time. Of course, yes, I do want to offer my congratulations as well to Claudette, talk about the ups and the downs of life, but having received the Citizen of the Year is a tremendous honor for her, very well deserved, and of course all of our nominees on Saturday night were very well deserving as well. I do want to pass along my thanks as well to the Kinsmen and to our staff, to Krista Tucker, and to our community services staff and everybody else who played a part in making sure that particular event went off as well as it always does. Just one comment, though. That afternoon, I was out running some errands, and I did run into Richard Levandier as he was out doing his thing and getting ready for Saturday night. And he was telling me about how much effort that the Kinsmen actually had to put in to getting nominees this year. And, certainly we have so many people in Mount Pearl that do so much on a volunteer basis, that we really shouldn't have trouble finding somebody to recognize. So given that this is Volunteer Week, and I think volunteers are truly the heart of our community, I'd just like to encourage everybody this Volunteer Week to find a volunteer, or 2 or 3 or 6 or 10 in Mount Pearl and say thank you, because we have so many volunteers, as Councillor Tessier indicated earlier, that deserve this kind of recognition, and certainly a sincere thank you and a pat on the back.
Thank you, sir, very much. Just a couple of notes then from me, and then we'll call for a motion to adjourn. Had the honor today of addressing the Canadian Home Builders Association, the Newfoundland and Labrador branch out at the Flavarium. They had a big turnout. Some people said that it was a result of my being there. I doubt that. But we did get a chance to tell them about construction, particularly resident construction in 2013, as well as what we're looking forward to in 2014. And we're looking at about $80 million worth of construction that will take place in the city in the coming 12 months versus some $77 million last year. And these are all of the major builders in the region. They seem to appreciate that we said that we were of the opinion that they were the experts in the field and could tell us what the true market demand was, and they could be an integral part in helping us reach some of our goals as it relates to housing style, design, affordable housing, those kind of niche issues that we as a city debate all the time. I did take a moment to talk to them about changing regulations and the reality that universal design and dealing with people with mobility problems is going to become an issue for them in the longer term, as both federal, provincial, and local regulators start saying we're going to incorporate or demand these kind of changes in new housing construction. Just wanted to let you know we did that. Also, the Association for the Arts held their annual general meetings this weekend, and they held it here at the Chamber. I had the pleasure of attending and representing the city and listening to Christine Henneberry and her group talk about where they've come in the decade that they've existed, where they plan to go in the future. I once again got to make my pitch for the Mount Pearl Players. I want to win the Provincial Drama Festival, period. That's what I want to do. And they're quite enthusiastic, not just about that particular idea, but about where arts are going. They are really looking forward to the opening of the multiplex, the expanding of the annex at Admiralty House, the possibilities and opportunities for them to have a permanent home and a permanent classroom space. All of that, they seem to be doing very well. So hats off to them and congratulations. They're doing a really good job, and I want to encourage that continued growth in our arts community. This is a town, as we all know, we're known for our sports talent, but we have such tremendous artistic talent in our community in every discipline of arts that it's surprising that it hasn't blossomed before this, but it's certainly doing it now. Again, congratulations to the Kinsmen on the Citizen of the Year dinner. Claudette Coons was very worthy. This coming Monday, next Monday, is the next meeting of the Northeast Avalon Regional Plan Oversight Committee, which is the councillors, the 15 mayors. We'll be meeting with the minister on Monday morning on the 14th. Looking forward to that one. We'll finally be approving a terms of reference and talking about some specifics on the consultancy that we're going to bring in, the role of staff, etc. I got a feeling it's going to be a long, detailed meeting, but that's happening this Monday. We'll see how that goes. This coming Wednesday night will be the public speaking contest for the Youth of the Year, and that is also going to be hosted here at City Hall. I'm sorry, it's the 16th, isn't it? Not the 14th, the 16th. It's the week after next. They're going to be holding that here, and we're looking forward to seeing them as well. I've got something I promised I'd read. So it's a letter, so I'm going to read it to you. I said I'd do it under new business, so here it is. Hello, Mr. Sims. This is signed. This is from Robbie Wiseman with the Rock Athletic Club. He says, I want to follow up on our recent success at the Canadian Kenpo Championships in Montreal. Our team, represented by Rock Athletics in Mount Pearl, had the best showing of any individual Kenpo karate school. They won 14 gold medals, 13 silver medals, 12 bronze medals. I figure that's pretty good. They write that our team received many compliments as to our respect, friendliness, and skill level. Our province was once again represented on the highest level of competition with class and competitiveness that would do our ancestors proud. On behalf of all our hardworking students, I would appreciate any recognition that does service to such an accomplishment, which is why I'm tabling this with you today. I think we should send them a little note to say, hey, congratulations. And in case you're wondering, they had 46 competitors. They traveled with a team of 104, including coaches and family members, to Montreal for that event. And the Rock Athletic Club from Mount Pearl kicked some butt. So that's good for them. That's really good for them. I want to join with a note from Councillor Stoyles as well, and I know that this coming summer, in part of our strategy on dealing with litter, we were going to deal with issues of vandalism and graffiti in a more serious way. These sentences that were handed down for this vandalism well, it's outrageous. The cost involved is thousands and thousands of dollars. It's generally taxpayers' money that has to be paid out on an ongoing basis to deal with that. The court did not choose to see that any restitution to the citizens should be provided. I'm outraged by that. I think that's the absolute ultimate offense, is that you have gone and done damage to public property. We're going to give you a sentence, and be it that it is 6 months probation or whatever, or a complete discharge, which I'm fascinated by, that you can do all of that, but at the end of the day say, but you will not be required to provide any restitution to the city, to the people or the citizens that you harmed. If a kid goes out and smashes the window out of your house as an act of vandalism, I can assure you the court, in providing a punishment, will see to it that restitution to the homeowner is provided. And that is the minimum requirement for a just sentence, to save the aggrieved citizen harmless, to put them back to the state they were before the offense occurred. That is a guiding principle of all law. So for the court not to say, you're going to have to do something to provide restitution to the citizens you offended, be that pay a fine to us to recoup the thousands of dollars of paint and labor that went into it, or be it that they themselves have to do some significant community service on our behalf, equivalent to the cost that they cost us, not to have done that is outrageous. The message that the court sent was that this is simply a lark, and we can forgive it. But taking a can of spray paint and spraying a box, a transformer, doing anything to tag it, is smashing the windows out of the high school, smashing the windows out of City Hall, beating up a public vehicle. Tell me, what's the difference? I think we've got to stop using the word graffiti on it, right? It's vandalism, pure and simple. It's vandalism, and I am disappointed with the court. I agree with Councillor Stiles. I agree with our colleague in St. John's, Councillor Hand, in that. And I hope that we get a message, and I hope that strategically, through the Northeast Avalon, that we could get a message directly to government, through to the Minister of Justice and through to the courts, that this kind of coddling is simply not acceptable in the world in which we live. But
Your
having
Worship,
said that,
before you adjourn, Your Worship, I'm just wondering if maybe we should send, as a city, because we've had so much vandalism, if we should send a letter to the court. Tell them
I have
our
every intention.
disappointment.
I have every
I think-
intention of sending my own letter, not a city one.
I think we should. No, I think we should officially send a city letter. And when I go to the joint councils, and I'm going to table it there as well. And when I serve on the M&L board as well, I'm going to table it there and ask them to send a letter, because I feel as strongly as you do. That's why I brought it up today. I've been waiting for the court case to come up when I was hearing about it in the media. And I know at one time we've talked about parents paying for their Children's Act. I don't support a parent having to pay for something that their child did, because
I do. See,
I don't think a parent, but I think
absolutely
but
do.
I think a young adult is able to
I don't
do
mind if they
work.
work it off.
Yeah, I think a young adult, if they're, and when they become age, they've done something when they're over the period before they turn 20, they should have to pay it back and do something, like I said, like community work or something, but I don't like putting the burden on the parents, because it's not the parents' fault.
Well,
I
it
don't
is the
like
parents'
blaming-
fault. Well,
I don't like
unfortunately, it
blaming
is.
the parents.
Unfortunately, it is the
Not
parents' fault. They
always.
don't know where the hell their kids are.
Not
Now, in
always.
this instance, the last guy, I think, is a full-fledged adult.
Yes.
He is of, as they say, the age of accountability. So he got off scot-free. That is ridiculous. But
It is.
letters will be
But I
forthcoming.
would like to send a letter.
Council agree with it? Sending a letter?
Do you want a motion?
Done. I don't think we need to. Just by consensus, we agree we're going to do that. Now I want a motion. Move to adjourn. Councillor Stoyles.